Shalom. We'll get started here in just a moment.
After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet talking with me, which said, Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. And round about the throne were 24 seats. And upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment. And they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. And in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were 4 beasts, full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the 4th beast was like a flying eagle. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within. And they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was, and is to come. And when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever, the 24 elders fall down before him that sat on the throne, and worship him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne, saying, Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created. For thou hast created all things, and for thy pleasure they are and were created.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory into my power. Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Hakodash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father. His true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh. In his son's name, who the world internet called Jesus Christ, real name in Hebrew is Yahushua. Also giving praises, honor, and glory to the Hakodash, the Holy Spirit, which is the force and entity that makes his edification possible. I want to say shalom to all you sincere heart of Akim, wa akwat, that you brothers and sisters make your bodies a living sacrifice on a daily basis in this wicked and adulterous generation. Also want to give double honors to my beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and who rule well. And I'm the brother Osmond Walk here from the Great Millstone Dallas Camp, coming back this morning through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah to do another lesson. And the Lord's will, this lesson be found edifying unto the elect of the nation of Israel, as well as glorifying unto the names of my power, Yahweh Shema Shah. And yeah, I want to get into the topic at hand this morning. As you can read the title of the lesson, Ridicule of America and state of, okay, the small hatters and Esau is everyday topic of discussion now. Okay, ridicule of America, all right, small hatters and Esau is everyday topic of discussion now. Okay, and that's biblical prophecy. Okay, that's biblical prophecy, man. As Yahweh by Shemal Shah, he's doing the ultimate regime change in the earth. Okay, as he's bringing down, okay, the prideful, the haughty, okay, which is Edomites, and he's uplifting, okay, the as a matter of fact, let's open up with this here in the book of Sirach, the 10th chapter, okay, because this is the ultimate global regime change, man. Okay, that we're witnessing Daniel 2 and 44. Okay, in the days of these kings, the Most High shall set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So, in the midst of these, Gentiles, these heathen nations, ruling, in the power seat, okay, the Most High is setting up, you know, um, a whole nother kingdom underneath everyone's nose. And that kingdom, okay, is the throne of David, all right, which is a government, okay, that Yahweh, okay, it has and is and will continue to work through, okay, to forward righteousness upon the planet Earth. All right, so we're just looking at the build up, okay, into the topple and complete overthrow and annihilation, okay, of starting with Esau, Edom, and all these other heathen nations, man. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 10, and it's a very beautiful thing. And Thawadi How Shemal Shah, all right, all right, for making good on your word, all right, and giving unto us the truth, man, here in these latter times, enlightening our eyes, all right, to where we have hope, okay, of the calling, as is written of in Ephesians, the first chapter. Now we know the end all be all. Okay, we just don't preach doom and gloom, which we do. We are the prophets of doom. Okay, but there's a reason why. Okay, great doom and destruction and misery is coming because it's going to birth. Okay, peace is going to birth immortality. Okay, for the Israelites, starting with the elected nation of Israel. All right, we're coming to the times of restitution where the Lord is going to send back his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai, okay, to restore this planet, to refresh this earth, man. All right. Sirach chapter 10 and verse 16. It said, let's start at verse 15. Salakia, verse 14. I know I do this every time, Salakia, but you see a good verse, but it's like you kind of glimpse up at the prior verse, the verse before. It's like, man, that's good too. So this whole Bible is speaking, man. Really, let's just start at Genesis 1 and 1, and we'll just, now I'm playing. Sirach chapter 10 and verse 14. The Lord Yahweh Bashmal Shah have cast down the thrones of proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. This is what we're witnessing in real time. Yahweh Bashmal Shah is casting down the thrones, okay, symbolic for rulership, all right, of these proud princes. And who's the proudest of them all? Okay, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, he is the embodiment. Okay, he is pride in flesh, as the book of Obadiah goes into, man, and various other scriptures. All right, and all these other heathen nations, man, they're proudful. Okay, as they exalt themselves above, okay, the Most High's chosen people. Okay, but Esau's taking it, okay, a step further. Okay, he's exalting himself or attempting to exalt himself above the Creator. Okay, as he wants to be revered and known and looked at as the Most High, okay, in the form of his technology, his pseudoscience, okay. So it says, the Lord hath cast down the thrones of proud princes and set up the meek in their stead. And who's the meek? Okay, the elect of the nation of Israel, starting with Yahweh Shah first and foremost. Okay, Yahweh Shai gave up his divine privileges, okay, 2,000 years ago, and he came in the flesh, okay, born, from the seed of a man, okay, from the lineage of King David all the way down to the loins of Joseph, okay, he came out the matrix, okay, of the womb of, his earthly mother, Mary, okay, he humbled himself unto the obedience of the cross, okay, he resurrected, and now he sits, okay, in the heavens, okay, being honored, okay, worship 24/7 all around the clock, man, okay, as he's received, glory, honor, dominion, and now he's coming back very soon, all right, upon the planet Earth to stake his rightful claim, all right, to his inheritance, to his possession that the Most High promised unto him. You see, and he's going to divvy up, okay, his kingdom, because this is ultimately Yahweh Shai's kingdom that was promised, by the Heavenly Father. But he's going to okay, divvy up the kingdom, all right, unto his people, starting with the elect. Okay, as scripture says, he's going to divide the spoil with the strong. Okay, so as Yahweh Shai comes back and spoils these nations and takes over this planet, he's going to divide it up, okay, with the governing body of the nation of Israel. All right. And our people are going to all be set up, man. They're going to be doing great. All right. But before we get to that, all right, we got to go through the Lord dismantling these heathen nations. As it says in Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, the Lord is going to undo all those that afflict us. That's what's happening right now. Yahweh Shemal Shai is undoing, okay, the fabrics of this society, the fabrics of this so-called legitimate order. Okay, the U.S. Constitution, these international laws, these global ordinances. Okay, Yahweh Shemal Shai is undoing that. He's undoing, okay, Babylon's allies. Okay, which once a nation and its allies, have a rift. Okay, that's pretty much the end of that civilization, bro. All right. Verse 15, the Lord Yahweh Shemal Shai had plucked up the roots of the proud nations. And when you pluck up, okay, roots, that thing is never going to grow again. You see, it's different from you just chopping it down and the root is still in the soil. Okay, it has hope, to still bud and blossom in a future date. Okay, but we're looking at times where the Lord is getting to the root. Okay, he's getting to the roots, man. The roots, as the molehead be saying, the roots. But okay, he's completely, undoing this man and all these other nations, man. It says, and planted the lowly in their place. And who's the lowly? All right, the nation of Israel, starting with the elect. Yahweh Shemal Shai overthrew the countries of the heathen. All right, America's being overthrown. All right, but it doesn't see it yet because of its pride. Pride blinds you. Okay, you see, but as scripture say, Proverbs the 16th chapter, pride comes before destruction and a haughty spirit before fall. See, but nonetheless, America's being overthrown. All right, the everyday topic of discussion is the weakness of America, all of America's weak points and chinks in our armor, and these other heathen nations, they see that, okay, and they're using it as leverage, man. Okay, the Lord Yahweh Shemal Shai overthrew countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. All right, so now I want to go here to the book of Sirach 35, and we'll stem this lesson, was going through the book of Isaiah the 14th chapter again. I was just kind of reading through it, and man, that chapter's playing out in real time. These other heathen nations, man, as we're about to get into, as we're gonna go into Isaiah 14 here in a second. They see, okay, America is weak just like they are. Okay, like damn, you're not that big and bad. I mean, you were, okay, but you're not the same. America's not the same. This ain't the good old days. This ain't the 50s and the 60s. Okay, when the economy was so-called booming, and had niggas in a super low play. I mean, Jake is still super low, okay, in the stratosphere, if you will. But nonetheless, America's not the same. And these other nations, they see it. They see the weakness, okay, in America's regime. Starting from the top. The president, his cabinet, military, army personnel. Okay, they're weak and they're mocking at it. That's why you got Iran making all these Lego videos, which I ain't gonna lie, those Lego is whack. But nonetheless, if you get the message behind that they're trying to portray, behind those videos, it speaks volumes, because that's prophecy in and of itself. At the end of the day, okay, these heathen nations, they're casting a taunting proverb at the king of Babylon. That's what that is, even though it's whack, because Elon, bro, them niggas, they musty and they lame, so everything they do, it ain't got no salt on it, because they're not Jake, you know. But nonetheless, it's still prophecy, you know. And the talk of the downfall of America, the state of Israel, and these Edomites in general, that is the everyday topic of discussion. Hell, you got niggas at your job talking about it. Jake at the barbershop, at the gym, even though they still blinded for the majority of the part, but a lot of people are still, hell, you got Edomites, on TikTok, YouTube, all these social media platforms. It's just like, man, everywhere you look, the algorithm is just, just flooded with, videos of America being, ridiculed. The Lord got the scopeo on this place. It's Sirach chapter 35 and verse 17. The prayer of the humble pierceth the clouds. All right. And we're praying every day. All right. That Yahweh Shema Shai brings this place down. Okay. And sets up righteousness upon the earth, which he will and he is. Okay. But everything is happening in due time. It says, until it comes nigh, he will not be comforted. That's right. Until, the petitions of our prayers are answered and it comes to pass, we're not going to be comforted, bro. Okay, there's no comfort on this side until the Lord brings down our enemies. Okay, and Yahweh Shah comes back. Okay, and refreshes everything. It says, until it come nigh, he will not be comforted, and will not depart until the Most High shall behold to judge righteously and execute judgment. Right? If you're in the spirit, okay, you're going to be praying that the Lord executes judgment. You see? Verse 18, for the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah will not be slack. And you go into that word slack, it means not to work. Okay, so the Lord is never a moment where Yahweh Shema Shah is not working. Okay, even though it may not necessarily be breaking news every day all around the clock, that doesn't mean that the Lord's not working. Okay, he's working behind the scenes all the time, working upon the kings, upon the mind of the kings. Okay, putting particular, people in positions and taking people out, and Yahweh Shema Shah. There's a lot of moving parts. Okay, in the Lord's movie, that you got to be tapped into the spirit to see the Lord moving, even though it may not necessarily be breaking news, headlines, All right. At the end of the day, the Lord is always working. This is John chapter 5, one of my favorite verses. John 5 and 17. Yahweh Shah replied, my Father is always working, and so am I. See? Oh, that was the NLT, by the way. I read that in the NLT, John 5 and 17 NLT. But Yahweh Shah replied, my Father is always working, and so am I. That's right, man. So, okay, that's Yahweh Shah speaking. He says, hey, the Father, Yahweh, he's always working. You see, and who does the Most High work through? Okay, Yahweh Shah. See, Yahweh Shah is the Most High's right-hand man that gets everything done, okay, for the Heavenly Father. So everything that we were witnessing up on the earth play out, okay, World War III, rumors, even all the way down to the rumors of wars. The Lord, Yahweh Shah is putting it in the minds of these kings to, in the mind of the kings of Elam to make these whack-ass Lego videos. Yahweh Shah is making them do that. You see, to fulfill prophecy, have talks of these or fake ass negotiations of peace treaties, okay, or 2-week ceasefires, which that shit didn't even last for an hour. Yesterday they so-called came in agreement as Pakistan was the mediator between the U.S. and Iran or Iran. I know people say, oh, y'all say Iran. Shut up. Okay, it doesn't even freaking matter. You don't even know the name of the Most High's unbegotten Son. So shut up. But as the U.S. and Iran, had so-called a 2-week ceasefire negotiation, yesterday. Hell, it didn't even last for an hour, because supposedly Israel is accusing Iran of sending missiles, shooting missiles, last night, bro. And they also hit Kuwait and a few other, Gulf states. I was looking at that this morning. So we're not in a time of peace. We're in the time of war. The Lord is not going to slow this thing up. All right, it's heading full steam ahead. So that lets you know that we're super close to the MOTB, super close to the MOTB being mandated. And the way Esau is going to package and present the MOTB is going to be, okay, the cure and the remedy and the answer to all the distress and the economic turmoil and the supply chain, shortages and all that. Okay, well, if you take this chip, okay, you'll be able to still have access to, to these things, and we can very well easily see the chip being, spawned out of these geopolitical tensions. So verse 18, Sirach 35 and 18, for the Lord Yahweh Shemal Shah will not be slack, neither will the mighty be patient toward them. The Lord, he's not being patient towards them anymore. Okay, he's moving. And what is that? Psalm 73, when the Lord shall arise, he shall despise. Let's grab that. Despise their image. Which this is what, the psalmist Asaph, the prophet Asaph, okay, this is what he saw, after he was, filled with vexation of seeing the wicked, thrive and prosper in the earth, where the Lord showed him, okay, after he went into the sanctuary, symbolic for the Lord, opening up his understanding. He saw the end of the wicked. Psalm 73 and 17 in the NLT. Start at verse 16 in the NLT. So I tried to understand why the wicked prosper, but what a difficult task it is. Then I went into your sanctuary, O Yahweh Shemal Shah, and I finally understood the destiny of the wicked. See that? Same thing applies to us. For a long time, we just thought, before we came into this truth, we just thought that, hey, this is the so-called white man's world. We just living in it. This is how it's going to be forever. We're going to be slaves. We're going to be working forever. We're going to have, whack-ass families. Okay. And we're going to have to pass that, loser of a legacy down to our sons and daughters. They're gonna have to die and pay taxes and all that crap, man. But now we understand the destiny of the wicked. You see, the triumphing of the wicked is for seasons, for a short time period, as it says in the book of Job, the 20th chapter. The Lord just set this man up, okay, to ultimately, to be a rod of chastisement against the Lord's people. But now we're in the time of the affliction of Zion coming to an end. Our captivity is up. So, simultaneously, what happens is the Lord brings down our captors. He's about to flip the tables. We're going to, as it says in Isaiah the 14th chapter, we're going to possess those that possessed us. Let's skip down here to verse 20. As a dream, when one awaketh, so, O Lord, Yahweh Shemal Shah, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. See that? And that's what, is happening right now. Yahweh Shemal Shah, he's moving. He's aroused himself. And now he's despising their image. He's he sees exactly what's going, what's happening up on the earth. Esau trying to set himself up as a god, as the most high up on the earth. And the Lord hates that. See? And he's coming back to send his only begotten son to wage war, okay, against these heathen nations and to destroy their wicked devices, as it says in 2 Ezra, the 13th chapter. But I'll finish this in Sirach 35, and we'll get into the main part of the lesson, as it relates into, the ridicule of America, and the state of Israel and Esau's everyday, topic of discussion. Let's finish this out in Sirach 35 and 18. For the Lord will not be slack, neither will the mighty be patient toward them, until he have smitten in sunder the loins of the unmerciful. And who's the unmerciful? Esau. He has shown no mercy. All right, so he's going to be smitten asunder. All right. And repaid vengeance to the heathen. See that? The Christian church don't teach you that. At the Most High, he pays you back. Okay. And it's going to happen to the heathen. Hell, you got Assad and Deacon trying to save the heathen. No, the Lord's coming back to repay, okay, these heathens with vengeance. All right. It says, till he have taken away the multitude of the proud and broken the scepter of the unrighteous. Right. And that echoes what the book of Isaiah the 14th chapter says. Okay. The rod of, we'll get it here in a second, but the rod of the wicked is, broken. The scepters of the rules is broken. So I got a few pictures here queued up. I use one as a thumbnail, but as you can see, this is this is a picture that Iran, the Iran embassy in Sierra Leone, they had published, or they put up on their social media platform, a few days ago, and as it reads, it says, yes, sir, you burned and won. Now calm down, and they were mocking a tweet, that Trump had made, saying that we won, or not a tweet, but a Twitter X, post that Trump has said, he said we won. Which how many times have you heard that so far? Trump getting behind the podium and we won. Their navy is annihilated. The Air Force is annihilated. We won. We won. Well, if you won, why are you having 2-week peace negotiation? Endeavors, man. If you won, you see, 2 week ceasefire. Hold up, I thought you won. See, so everybody sees that America is done. The leaders, they're all confused. You see. So yeah, that's one picture I got. Okay, Iran is mocking. Okay, the king of Babylon. Okay, well at least the puppet. All right, because the king of Babylon is ultimately going into the elites. All right, this whole system that's ran by Esau Edom, the virgin daughter of Babylon. Now you can see another picture. This is funny. All right, there's another picture. You can see Trump got a hat on, and it says Israel's bitch. All right, and instead of him standing, instead of the two American flags behind him, so of course this is AI generated. This is an AI generated picture, of course. But it's got two Israeli flags, erected behind him, and the slogan upon the podium says Operation Epic Fuck Up. All right. And then you got this other picture here. All right. Iran had published this picture. It says U.S. Marines arrive in Middle East as Iran warns, welcome to hell. All right. Welcome to hell. So all of that reminded me of what the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter says. Let's go there. And look at the title, A Taunt for Babylon's King. Okay. Now it speaks about Lucifer. Okay. In this chapter, when you read the 12th verse, but you got to continue to read. See, these Christians, they cherry pick. They accuse us of Hebrew hopscotching and cherry picking or whatever. No, we read. You got to read the volume of the book. Okay, it says Luke, which we're about to get into it, but it is speaking about a man. Okay, when you read the 16th verse, these other nations is saying, "Is this the man that made the earth to tremble?" So, all right, Esau is not being revered as the world's moral compass. Okay, the standard of enlightenment. Okay, the standard of strength and bravery, and he's not revered as that as such anymore. Okay, these other nations are talking cash money against America because they see how weak America has become. But that's ultimately all by the hand of Yahweh Bashmal Shah, as we open up with. Okay, in Book of Sirach, the 12th chapter. Let's grab this before we get into Isaiah 14. Now I got a little info here off the chat GPT I want to grab. So this is Job chapter 12 and verse 17 in the NLT. Just speaking about the Most High and how he deals with nations and their kings. Job 12 and 17 in the NLT. He leads counselors away, stripped of good judgment. Wise judges becomes fools. All right, you see that within the U.S. cabinet, and all their advisors and counselors. All of them are just dumb as hell. They're all cracked out, messed out. You look at that one dude, man, what's his name? Cash Patel. Okay, you look at pictures of Patel, Cash Patel, that nigga, his pupils are always dilated, like it's like he hits a bump, before he before he has any type of press conference. But all of them do that shit, man. Okay. They're all accused of being on that island, okay, which nobody's been convicted yet. Nobody's been in prison yet for that, okay. And conveniently, this war got kicked off right when that whole Island deal, was being brought up, on the surface. And immediately, okay, all this shit with U.S., Israel, and Iran started to kick off, man. Conveniently, right? So this place is done. Your leaders are dumb as hell. So what does that make the common everyday people? Okay, dumb as hell as well. Sirach the 10th chapter. Okay, that's Sirach 10 and 1. So this gross, we're witnessing Isaiah the 60th chapter. Gross darkness, okay, is upon the people. Isaiah 10 and 1, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, so the type of man, okay, that runs the city, okay, or this kingdom, it says, such are all they that dwell therein. So just as, you know, your leaders, your rulers, okay, are dumb, they're wicked, they're dark, they say they're satanic. Okay, the same thing with all the people, those that dwell therein, except for the elect. All right, there's no enchantment against Jacob, man. Ultimately, the elect of the nation of Israel. Let's go back here to Job 12 and 18 in the NLT. He removes the royal robe of kings. They are led away with ropes around their waists, meaning they're headed for captivity. So from the throne, okay, into chains. And that's going to be the fate of these Edomites and all these heathen nations. See, they're going to go from thrones to chains, just like we had to. Okay, the nation of Israel, starting with our kings, okay, governors and princes and, you know, priests, okay, upper echelon and common everyday people. We went from a high position of authority and superiority to slavery, man, overnight. See, the Lord cast us from that high and lofty estate from heaven, and he cast us down, okay, into the earth. Lamentations 2 and 1. How have the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger, and cast down from heaven, okay, unto the earth the beauty of Israel. Also proving that when scripture speaks about heaven, it's not just exclusive to, you know, the place where the Most High resides. You have multiple heavens that's spoken of throughout the scriptures. Okay, and in this aspect, in this sense, in this verse, okay, heaven is going into position of rulership. So the Lord casts us down from a high position of rulership, says, unto the earth. So he cast us low, he brought us low, where we find ourselves at this very day. Okay, so low that we have to pay taxes to pedophiles, man. Okay, niggas that eat babies. That's how low Yahweh Shema has brought us. Okay, so low that the Israelite man has no respect upon this earth, man. Israelite man has to take orders from a fat Big Shirley at his job, man. So the Lord has definitely cast us down from heaven unto this low position on earth, man. It says, and remembered not his footstool in the day of his anger. It says, verse 2, the Lord Yahweh Shema have swallowed up all the habitations of Jacob and have not pitied. He hath thrown down in his wrath the strongholds of the daughter of Judah. He hath brought them down to the ground. He hath polluted the kingdom and the princes thereof. So if he did that to his people, well, not if, but as he has done that to his own chosen people that he loves dearly, what do you think he's going to do to the nation of people that he hates? Okay, which you Edomites. All right, so there's no chance in hell for you Edomites, man. For you so-called white people, starting with the elite banking families. All right, Yahweh Shema is not on your side, and you know it. So you're going to be removed, okay, from your throne, and you're going to be put into chains, just as his sons had to endure that, man. So now let's go back here to Job 12 and 19, NLT. He leads priests away, stripped of status, right? Because we're a nation of kingdom, we're a kingdom of kings and priests, man. You see? But he stripped us from that status. Okay. That's why you got these other nations mocking us. You know, Jake said, yeah, we were kings. Well, these other nations, oh yeah, we was kings. That's them mocking us, man. And they're right. You know, like shit. The Lord has made us a proverb and a byword. It hurts. But now we're coming back. Okay, through this word, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, now we're coming back to our status. Slowly but surely. All right. But the Lord is speeding this thing up, man. And simultaneously, he's bringing Esau down. So it says he leads priests away, stripped of status. He overthrows those with long years in power. Come on. Who is that speaking about? Esau, man. Especially him. You know, these Edomites have been in power, okay, and, you know, position of authority longer than we have. You see? That's why the prophet Ezra in the book of Second Ezra, the 6th chapter, asked this question to the angel. Second Ezra chapter 6. I'm thinking of that one. And also there's another one in Isaiah. I want to get this one in Isaiah 63. Yeah, Isaiah 63 and 18. Start at verse 17. O Lord, why hast thou made us to err from thy ways and harden our heart from thy fear? Return for thy servant's sake the tribes of thine inheritance. Verse 18, the people of thy holiness, which are the Israelites, have possessed it but a little while. Talking about our land. We possessed it for a little while, bro. And only 40 years while we were in our land did we have peace. Outside of those 40 years, it was a constant state of turmoil, okay, distress, famine, civil wars. We had a lot of civil wars amongst ourselves, man, but we only had possession of that land in peace for approximately 40 years. So he says, the people of your holiness have possessed it but a little while. See, a little while. Our adversaries have trodden down thy sanctuary. See that? So our adversaries, let's get this in the NLT. How briefly your holy people possessed your holy place, and now our enemies have destroyed it. See, and Esau's been on top for a long time, man. Which I got that because as we're reading here in the book of Job, it says that the Lord, he's going to overthrow those with long years in power. You think of, how long Esau's been in power, going all the way back to the Grecian Empire, really sedimented by, Alexander the Greek, you see, which he's spoken of in the Apocrypha, in the Bible, man. And ever since then, evils have been multiplied upon the earth, and the Lord has allowed the wicked, to have a firm, rooting in the earth. As scriptures say, I have seen the wicked, spreading himself like a green bay tree. Esau has spread himself all throughout the four corners of the earth, man. See? So this is a big thing, man. This ain't no light thing where, it's everyday topic of discussion. Okay, Esau, it's being spoken about of, being brought out of power, and, is even a threat against, the homeland. That's a big deal. Because this is a topic of discussion that used to be once taboo, 5-10 years ago. This was a taboo, topic to speak about, the possible, conception of America being destroyed, or, so we're witnessing the work, in the hand of our power, man, Yahweh Shema Shah. So now let's go here to Isaiah 14. Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 4. And we're going to kind of do a little skipping around. Isaiah 14 and 4. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. And who's the king of Babylon? Okay, starting with the elites. All right. And Babylon is America. All right, which America runs, the world. It's known as the hammer of the earth. So once America is brought to naught, all right, as it's happening right now, okay, that's the end. That's the end of you Edomites, man. See, but they think they're going to rise up from the ashes. No, okay, this is Yahweh Shah, orchestrating this global regime change. So it says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how have the oppressors ceased? The golden city ceased. Now let's skip down here to verse, let's read the next verse, verse 5. The Lord have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. All right, meaning he's breaking their pride and he's breaking their power structure, man. All right, NLT, for the Lord has crushed your wicked power and broken your evil rule. And it's going to ultimately happen once Yahweh Shah comes back physically. All right, but it's happening now. You see, and these nations, they're gonna shoot their missiles right up on this place, man. Even America's, once long-standing allies, the NATO and the EU, they're gonna have a part and a hand in bringing this place down, and that's according to biblical prophecy, Revelation 17 and 15. So let's skip down here to verse 9. It says, hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. Let's read that again. It says, hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. And hell, when you go into it in the Hebrew, all right, is shawa'al. All right. The Yiddish way of saying it, Sheol, which simply means grave. Okay, meaning that the Lord is going to bring this place to a lower state. All right. So it says, the grave or hell from beneath is moved to meet thee at thy coming. Going to show you that it's inevitable. America has an inevitable fate that it will be brought down, okay, to the grave. Meaning it's going to be brought low. It stirreth up the dead for thee. And who's the dead that is speaking about? These other nations. And this verse basically breaks itself down. We could go to various other precepts to prove that the dead is speaking about the other nations. Revelation 20, Daniel 7, Proverbs 21 and 16, these nations that don't have the breath, okay, these heathen nations. But this verse basically breaks down who and what the dead is, okay, the other nations. It says, it stirreth up the dead for thee, okay, so just as these other nations, they're not on top, okay, all right, so these other nations, as we've been going into, here in this lesson, Iran especially and particularly right now, but all these other nations, it's pretty much, casting a taunting proverb against this place, man. You see, calling America weak, making fun of, America's president, and rulers and, the president's cabinet. Hell, they even making, fun of Pete Hegseth, This is all prophecy. This is the dead, okay, stirring themselves up. Now, what are they saying? It says, even all the chief ones of the earth, it have raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. And it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? See? Art thou also become like unto us? That is a pivotal moment in earth history. Okay. For a long time, America has been seen as, the beacon of strength, the American military, it's none else like it, which, to be real, okay, America is still very strong militarily, okay, but it's prophecy that this place is going to be weakened, and we see it weakened. So much to the point to where now these other nations are calling it out, and they're not afraid of America anymore. See? And what can America really do about it? What can Babylon really do about it, man? Nothing. Because it's Yahweh Shemal Shah, man, making all this come to pass. Daniel 2 and 21 in the NLT says, he controls the course of world events. Speaking of, Yahweh Shemal Shah. See? So all these world events that we see going on from the 2-week, ceasefire negotiations, and from the, actual, agitations and geopolitical turmoils and skirmishes, missiles being shot off, and, economic pressures. Hey, this is the work of the Lord, man. These puppet presidents being put in office, the elites in their positions. That's Yahweh Shemal Shah. He rules in the kingdom of men, as it says in Daniel 4:17. All right, so let's read this again. Daniel 2 and 21 NLT. He controls the course of world events. You consider a course that, makes you think of like a river, the river banks is what actually controls, the direction of the current and the water. So that's how the hand of Yahweh Shemal Shah is conducting, and guiding, the course of, the world events. Is ultimately to lead us to a particular destination. And that's the kingdom of heaven, man, being set up here upon the earth. It says he removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. And that's speaking about the elect. All right. And he gave his elect wisdom and knowledge and understanding in these latter days to understand, okay, what's going on. All right. So let's go back here to Isaiah 14 and verse 10. And they shall speak and say unto thee, speaking about these other nations, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? All right. Now I want to go here. I just got a little information on the chat. I just typed in the common trend of other nations seeing America as weak as them. And it says there is a noticeable trend in some countries portraying the United States as weaker or declining. But it's important to separate perception, propaganda, and actual capability. They're not the same thing. Okay, and it gives some reasons why some nations portray America as weak. So it says why some nations portray America as weak. Several rival governments and media outlets have pushed narratives about the U.S. decline. And even the narratives themselves, okay, plays a part of prophecy. It's called rumors, okay? It's called a proverb. Habakkuk, the second chapter, goes into it. How all these shall cast a taunting proverb. You see? Woe unto him that increaseth with that which is not his. So it says this is especially common in state-controlled media in countries like Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. All right, which all these nations that now was just listed off, okay, is prophesied to destroy this place, to aid in destroying this place, America, Babylon the Great, and even the state of Israel. They highlight things such as political division inside the U.S. See that? Protest or social unrest, government shutdowns or debt fights, military withdrawals, especially after the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan, which is a skirmish and a war that they completely, absolutely lost. You see? Economic concerns like inflation or debt. See? And the debt, okay, and the inflation is all part of Bible prophecy as well. Okay, Habakkuk, the second chapter, okay, speaks about the how he's going to lay himself with that thick clay. All right, you go into that word clay is abatya, which means heavy debts, pledges, weights. All right, so these other nations see, okay, the condition that America, that Uncle Sam is on, or Uncle Sam is in, okay, and that nigga's on life support. All right, he's on life support right now, and the plug is about to be pulled, man. Now I want to skip down here. It says for number 3, but there are real reasons for concern. Not everything is propaganda. Some concerns are genuine and widely discussed by analysts. Number 1, political polarization inside the U.S., rising national debt, manufacturing is moving overseas, and right, and that's why part of Trump's campaign, in this tenure that he's on, he's trying to advocate, and push for, more countries to, or more companies and industries to build here, domestically, to run shop here domestically in the States, because that takes a lot of power and leverage away, from Babylon when things are manufactured overseas, because then they have to rely and depend upon these, these foreign nations. You see? It says rival powers growing stronger, especially China, economically and militarily, and Russia militarily pressures in regions like Eastern Europe. This creates a shift from total dominance to competition, not necessarily collapse, but it's collapse. See, because it's prophecy. So that's this is I like what chat said, because it's ultimately pointing out that America's not seen as being completely dominant, you see, as it used to be. Now these other nations are actually seeing America as competition now, as if they can job for position, which that's Psalms the 75th chapter. Okay, let's grab that real quick. Let's see, it's not going to be any of these other nations that's going to be in a power seat next. All right, that's where the Lord's going to come back, and confuse their counsels, man. Psalms the second chapter. See, and these heathens are raging. You see, the Most High is going to send His only begotten Son, all right, to set up shop, man, upon the earth. Psalm 77, it's like 75 in verse 6. It says, for promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. And all these heathen nations, Russia, China, Iran, India, all of them, they're all seeking promotion. They're all in agreement when it comes to the New World Order, but they're jockeying in position, okay, to be at the head of that. See? Verse 7, but the Most High is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. For in the hand of Yahweh Bashmal Shah there is a cup, and the wine is red. It is full of mixture, and he poureth out of the same. But the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out and drink them. Let's go here to Isaiah 14. And I got to wrap it up. I had some more I wanted to get into, but, it's all good. The point has been made. Isaiah 14 and verse 26. All right, because this is the Lord's plan for all these heathen nations. And the NOT, I have a plan for the whole earth. And where do we find and understand that plan at? Okay, in the Bible, and it's understood by the prophets breaking it down. Okay, now we know the Lord's determination for America. You see? He says, I have a plan for the whole earth, a hand of judgment upon all the nations. See that? So all you nations about to be judged, man. Okay, and that's Joel, the 3rd chapter. For the controversy of Zion, will you render unto the Lord a recompense? And if not, and if so, okay, do it swiftly. But they're not going to do it. Okay, they're not going to give up. Okay, their stolen goods and pay back everything that they stole. So it's just judgment time, man. So they could talk about these ceasefire negotiation deals and all that, this and that. At the end of the day, okay, they're in too deep. Okay, they are in too deep. Verse 27 in the NOT. The Lord Yahweh Bashmal Shai, heaven's armies, has spoken. Who can change his plans? When his hand is raised, who can stop him? Right, man. Who's going to change the plans of Yahweh Bashmal Shai? Nobody, bro. All right. Remember, Isaiah the 9th chapter. Okay, the government that the Most High is setting up. Okay, the throne of David. It says what? Isaiah 9. We're going to read that real quick and we'll wrap it up. Isaiah 9 and 6. For unto us a child is born. And who's the us? The Israelites. Okay, this is the prophet Isaiah. All right. Speaking this prophecy. All right. Who is Isaiah? Isaiah, he's a prophet. Okay, from the tribe of Judah. He's an Israelite. All right. So the us is speaking about, okay, are his, his brethren, the Israelites. For unto us a child is born. Yahweh Shai. Unto us a son is given. And the government, see, the government, which we go to that word government in Hebrew, is Masharah. All right, let's grab it real quick. That's what you people don't understand, that the kingdom of heaven is an actual government. Okay, it's not some, idea. The kingdom of heaven is not an idea. It's not a, a fantasy or whatever. No, it's a government. Okay, it's going to have a ruling class. It's going to have, aristocrats. It's going to have a ruling body. Okay, which that ruling body is the 144,000. Okay, underneath Yahweh Shai. All right, so this word government, Strong's H4951, Masharah. All right, it says rule, dominion, government. See that? So it's a rulership, a dynasty. Isaiah 9 and 6, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. All right, meaning that Yahweh Shai, okay, he it all rests upon him. You see, and he's going to have that high priestly position, okay, because the high priest, would wear, it would, he would bear the children of Israel's, names upon each of his shoulder. 6 tribes upon one shoulder and the other 6 tribes upon the other shoulder. Okay, symbolizing, okay, authority. See, and that's Yahweh Shai. Says, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Power, the Everlasting Father, because he's the Father, okay, of the elect. Yahweh Shai created, okay, everything and everybody. but he has a father. So he's not the Most High. He's not the Father, but he's a Father. It says the everlasting Father, and also goes into being originator. Okay, the author of something. It says the Prince of Peace. And here's the point I want, verse 7. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. Here's the point. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. NLT. I'm going to read that same part. It says the passionate commitment of Yahweh of heaven's armies will make this happen. See that? So as I just read in Isaiah the 14th chapter, it says, who's going to change his plans? Nobody's going to change the Most High's plans. Okay, Yahweh is passionately committed, okay, to making this happen, bro. So it's as good as done. So we're just seeing, you know, everything lead up into it, all the dominoes falling in place, you know, all the prophecies coming to pass. But hey, man, we're here. All right, so you know that's pretty much all I want to get into. I had some more, but the point was made. You know, so you know, Lord's willing, you know, you Akim and Akwat were edified. Until next time, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to my power, Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Chakurash. I want to give double honor to my beloved apostle, Elder Great Millstone, Walk with the Ball, Shalom.